Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Once again, we're trying out another new card from Tarkir Dragonstorm. The card today is Mistrise Village. This is a land that enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest, and you can tap it for blue, or you can pay blue and tap it. The next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. So, where are we playing this? We're playing it in a Sneak and Show shell. So we're already a blue-red combo deck that used to run Boseiju once upon a time anyway, the old Boseiju that let you do uncounterable spells. So it kind of just fits into that slot. We've got the mountains to support it. We've got these Volks, Sundering Falls, and this mountain here. So it should work relatively nicely. So our deck is pretty simple. We're trying to put Atraxa and Emrakul into play, sometimes with haste via sneak attack, and just destroy our opponent. Show and tell and sneak attack are the ways we're putting these creatures in, and usually one of them can find the other one if you're doing sneak attack lines and just bury your opponent in one attack. We've got counter spells to back up what we're doing in terms of Force of Will, Daze, and Flusterstorm. We've got a little bit of fast mana in Lotus Petals and Simian Spirit Guide alongside our Soul Lands to power out super quick. And then we've got ourselves the ways of finding our bits and pieces. So, Brainstorm, Ponder, and Stock Up. Stock Up is the big revelation. It's really empowered a lot of these sort of blue Ancient Tomb combo decks to really thrive. This is also a blue painted deck that's doing very well at the moment as well. So this can just help us find our A and our B. It's like a bit like when Dig Through Time was legal, and then there was a brief window where actually Sneak and Show was very, very, very good. And we're kind of reliving that a little bit here. There is also another Show and Tell deck that's very good at the moment right now, which is Omnitel, but that deck does not run Mistrise Village really, or at least I haven't seen any builds running it yet, so I thought we'd try it here, because we want to see the new stuff in action. Sideboard-wise, we've got some Moons, we've got some Artifact hate, some Graveyard hate, some Creature hate, Pyroblast, you know, just all the stuff you'd expect to find really. But most of the time we're going to be doing our main deck thing of slamming some big scary monsters at our opponents. Alright, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my content with these new cards that we're trying out. And let's get jamming with some show and tell. If you've been watching my content and thinking, I'd like to play some Legacy too, then check out 3for1 Trading, one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. They have weekly offers and upload new cards every Wednesday. And it's not just Legacy stuff they sell. They have a beautiful selection of vintage and old school cards too. Support from sponsors like 3for1 Trading make it possible for me to put out videos and help keep Legacy alive, so why not give them some love? Click their link in the description below and use my code COW3 to enjoy free worldwide shipping on your first order over €500. Okay, we're on the play here. We're going to need to find another land if we want our hand to do anything. Well, we're not a million miles away from being able to do some stuff. I think I will keep this one lander. It doesn't take much. Like, we've got any of our cantrips are great here. Any of our lands are obviously great too. Soul Land even better because we just play a stock up and then that should find us everything we need. But we just need lands, which is the most abundant thing in our deck. So it should be fine here. Okay, Planar Nexus and Shadow Spear. So our opponent has a Saga in their deck. So this is more likely to be... this isn't really where I wanted to go, was it? So I was going to say, this is more likely to be something along the lines of like a colourless stompy deck, I think. So they're going to be playing like Flesh Rakers and Kozilek's Commands and all that sort of jazz. Alright, here is the Flesh Raker. I will counterspell this. Alright, we're not going to spend that mana. Okay, let's ponder in some lands. We can show and tell next turn. That's pretty good. We can also stock up next turn. We're going to put this land in our hand and this show and tell on top. There is an argument to stocking up next turn instead of casting the sneak attack. Sorry, the show and tell. Because I can be worried about what our opponent is going to put in. Just giving our opponent like 4 free mana might be a bit much. Alright, this Karn is very irritating with our Lotus Petal. So they're just going to blow this up or they're going to get something. They're going to blow it up, sure. That is pretty disastrous for us. I knew this could happen when we kept a one-lander, but we had so many good draws. We have 8 cantrips, we've got Simian Spirit Guides, we've got Lotus Petals, we've got a bunch of lands. Like, if we drew one of our 5 soul lands at any point in the first couple of turns, then I think we just absolutely run away with this game. But now we're being threatened by a Karn. If they've got a tower here, they might be able to lattice lock us, and that's just going to be the end of the game. Liquid Metal Coating. Not a giant fan of this for us. So we've got a stock up that we're drawing next turn, which doesn't do anything. And then the Ezra Saga is going to start churning out some guys. Now, because our deck has fast mana and stuff, we can get out from underneath this. It's just not very pretty. How long have we got, though? 3 turns, I reckon. So they make a construct, they make a construct. Maybe the construct has haste the second one. And they might be able to kill us in a couple of turns. Unlike the blue-black reanimator decks, we need to get up to like 3 and 4 mana to do our thing. We can't just play on 1 or 2 lands. So maybe we're supposed to mulligan that one, but all we needed was mana, and we had loads and loads of draws that were good. This is going to name Sneak Attack, I suspect. There it is. Alright, once our opponent sees like the Lotus Petal, they should know what's going on. So now they're going to start blowing up our lands. Not ideal for us. Another Saga, so we get hit for 5 this turn. Next turn we get hit for 12. Okay, so we get hits for 6, and then we get hit for lethal. Okay, that will probably be enough. Alright, I think we've got some good tools for a matchup that looks like this though. I'm going to put this Meltdown straight into our deck, and this Brotherhood's End also very good. The Disruptor Flute can kill off the Khan's ability to do anything. If we're really worried about the Urza Saga, we can run these Mages of the Moons. I don't think we are worried about that though. I think it is just these 2 to 3 cards that we're interested in. I don't really like Daze here, because our opponent's going to have a whole bunch of mana to pay for stuff, and I don't really like the Flusterstorm because they're playing permanents. Which means we can get one more card in here. So we're getting Abrade in to blow up an artifact. Is Abrade better than Disruptor Flute? I am a bit worried about Khan. But maybe just having the Abrades, and we can hopefully just beat the Khan anyway. Alright, we'll try it like this. Our deck should be pretty good into this. We've got Counterspell for like the one thing they get to do scarily on curve. And then hopefully we can just go wild with it. Okay. Interesting. This is a turn 2 sneak attack. I will keep this. First appearance of Mistrise Village. This will come in tapped, unfortunately. But if we draw another piece of fast mana, then we can really just run on turn 2, just play this and make a little friend. But most likely we're going to be turn 2 Ponder. But we could Ponder into something that lets us pop off. I don't know how I feel about sitting the sneak attack in play. But we'll see what happens in the first turn cycle of the game and then make a decision. I suspect the main way of dealing with the sneak attack is going to be Pithing Needle. So we might be able to circumvent that with the artifact destruction we brought in anyway. So we can put this in play. Maybe they spend some time on it and then we can blow it up. So maybe letting this sit in play from turn 2 is a good place to be. Our opponent is down mulligan to 5 cards. So that's good for us. I'll play the tapped village and pass. Urza Saga, sure. So this is threatening a Pithing Needle very soon. A Meltdown. Is this worth us just getting the sneak attack down? We don't have any red mana for it is the problem though. I think the correct play here is the Ponder. City of Traitors, Lotus Petal, stock up. So we can put in an Emrakul next turn if we want to. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, so next turn we have sneak attack, activate, put in Emrakul, blow up all their permanents before they can get a Pithing Needle, and then we can just find a red mana at some point to finish them off with Atraxa. So we'll see what they put in this turn. Of Assault Monolith, okay. As long as they don't put in enough permanents to ignore our Emrakul, that'll be fine. Manifold Key, alright, so this is like a bit of a ritual effect here. So they could play the One Ring here. That would be fine. We still get to annihilate all their permanents. Okay. So they're going to have 3 cards when all this is said and done and no permanents. Not a bad place for us to be. So we draw the Lotus Petal here. 1, 2, 3, and a red. Let's cast Sneak Attack. And the Emrakul will attack. We'll blow up all their permanents. So we're not going to hit them for any damage, but they're not going to have any permanents. They don't want to play that. Sure. Felt fine. I think we just go in again as is. So I want the Disruptor Flute for like the One Ring and Khan. I think our plan is just go over that though. So we had the stock up on top of our library as well. So then the following turn we could just stock up and get a red source in theory. So we did have the win relatively soon. Yeah, I'll keep this one. I don't really want to just show and tell an Emrakul on turn 2, but maybe that's what we have to do. So I think we want to fetch on turn 1. The reason being, that gives us our turn 2 to choose whether we play a fetch or a non-fetch. So we can choose how many cards we keep off this Ponder. by having the fetches, like a fetch in the bank here. These cards are all good apart from the land, so we'll put the land on the bottom, put the other two in our hand. So we might just show and tell an Emrakul and say, is this good enough? Quite often it will be. The One Ring. That's a pretty good one. Alright, I think given what we have available to us right now, the correct play is just put an Emrakul in and say, can you beat it? Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. It's always scary whenever I cast a show and tell, because I never know if I'm going to lose the game because I've show and telled, which is certainly one of the risks you take playing this deck. They can't put in a card or anything, but they can put in another land, which is, you know, pretty good, because a lot of their lands tap for multiple amounts of mana. Disruptor Flute, so this is going to name Sneak Attack, but now they have one turn to get out from underneath their Emrakul. I don't know if they've got anything like an Ether Spellbomb, but it's certainly possible they can put an Ensnaring Bridge into play. Either they've bought it in or they get off of a Karn. That's going to be the main thing that will scupper our plans until we can find the next round of stuff. Right, let's tap in the One Ring. So they could just untap the One Ring a bunch of times, put loads of mana into play, and then kill us this turn with like Flesh Rakers and whatnot. That's what we're hoping to dodge this turn. I think a single crack with Emrakul should be enough. We'll take enough of our opponent's permanents. They did name the Force of Will on the Disruptor Flute, not the Sneak Attack, which is interesting. This is going to be an Ugin. I got 7 mana in the pool. Ugin doesn't deal with Emrakul though, because this is colorless, so it's probably not going to be that. A Grim Monolith, alright. 8 mana. So they have enough for Karn into Ensnaring Bridge. Kozilek's command X equals 7. So they're just spinning their wheels trying to find something here. So they're going to have 7 mana left over, which is exactly enough to cast Karn and get the Ensnaring Bridge to scupper our plans. Alright, so they found the Karn. Alright, so in comes the Ensnaring Bridge. So what is our plan? We have 2 options. We have option number 1 is cast stock up. Use the stock up to... Oh, I think we made a misstep last time. We were supposed to crack a fetch, so we didn't draw this fetch land. So we can cast stock up and look for something next turn. But do I think we're going to get another turn if we don't attack with our Emrakul? Because they can probably just lock us out with a Lattice Lock. So I think the actual play here is we cast a Ponder looking for a Abrade. These are not Abrades. This is in any order in shuffle. That is also not an Abrade. Okay. So now we need to survive this turn. Yeah, these like mono brown One Ring decks are pretty darn good when you just let them do their thing. Which is unfortunately what is happening right now. Okay. This is a Flesh Raker, so we could be dead this turn if they can string off enough things. Which I think would justify what we're up to. There's a Manifold Key. I'm going to crack this and get our Thundering Falls out now, so I can just F6 and see if we're dead. That's not what we wanted. Alright, opponent, you carry on. So they should have a reasonable chance of killing us this turn. The Manifold Key gives them another 4 cards. Candelabra of Taurus is pretty big news. This taps for 2, this taps for 3, so they will net mana on that exchange. And the whole time we're getting pinged down by the Flesh Rakers too. The second Flesh Raker, so this is going to kill us very quickly. They still haven't used their Karns, they've still got another activation which can guarantee them a 1-drop that they can play, which will then make them go up on mana if they need more mana, or they can go and get something that kills us. Alright, a Manifold Key, that gives them either more mana or more cards, depending on what they need. It's probably just more cards because the Flesh Rakers are netting them mana whenever they cast a 1-drop. A Pithing Needle, this is going to put us down to, what, 7? No, 6, right? We take 2 for every spell they play. No, that's not true. We take 4 for every spell they play, right? Because they make 2 1/1s. Each 1/1 pings us for 2. Doesn't take much. I just need 2 spells here. They've untapped their Candelabra. Intriguing. That means they have enough cards to kill us already. Mystic Forge. This is going to put us to 2. So we need them to brick when they have a Karn, a Mystic Forge, and 3 cards in hand. Yeah, I think we're dead here. Emrakul was not up to the task. As I said, it might not be. Alright, let's go to round number 2. We're on the play. We can stock up on turn 2. We have the sneak attack Emrakul plan as well. This seems fine. We probably are going to burn our City of Traitors on turn 2. I think turn 1 we leave open the option of getting a Surveil land here. So next turn we can play the sneak attack. But if we wait a turn, we can play the sneak attack and activate it in one turn cycle. Let's go get our Thundering Falls. I don't think we require another land. Let's put that one away. Force of Will. It's kind of awkward. I'm going to play out this Lotus Petal so that we can play around the Daze. I would like to stock up here. But we already have the blue card for our Force. So what we'll be looking for stock up? Another blue card and something else. Is that worth giving up? I think so. I think this is worth it. Because what if we find like a Daze or something, or another creature, so that we can just kill our opponent straight out? Stock up is an interesting one. Because sometimes you really want to counterspell it. Sometimes you just want to hold your counterspell for the thing. So if this gets a counterspell out of our opponent, we can just draw a blue card and be able to sneak attack with Force of Will backup anyway. So there's a lot of different ways this can pan out. And Entomb. Yeah, this is one of the things that I was hoping wouldn't happen. And these reanimated decks are very good against sneak and show decks, generally speaking. Okay, I will take 2 Flusterstorms, I think. That gives us the most ability to interfere with what our opponent's doing next turn. Cost of a Lotus Petal can be a lot though. So we have to Force of Will our opponent's reanimation. I don't want to have to use this Lotus Petal, but we might not have a choice. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have another reanimation effect. I think these decks play slightly fewer reanimation effects now. A Brainstorm. So our Flusterstorm is going to be good. That's what you're telling me. A Daze. Why would they be doing this? This must mean they have a second Daze. That's the only thing that makes sense here. So yeah, we could just pay for the Daze. If they've got a second Daze, then we don't get to do anything. So this is just, we don't die to what they're doing. Means we have to find a mana source, like a piece of fast mana, if we want to play and activate sneak attack. You can counter my Force of Will as not countering anything. But then we have to fade another turn of our opponent having this. Tap this. I guess if we've already established our opponent has another Daze, this could be awkward for us. But now we have 2 sneak attacks. I'm okay just to put one in play. Because we're going to struggle to play around Daze because it's the City of Traitors and not an Ancient Tomb anyway. Right, so our opponent has no lands in play. But they could just go land, reanimate, Atraxa, and then we lose the game most likely. If we had an Ancient Tomb instead of City of Traitors, I don't think I'd play the sneak attack there. We play around the Daze that we are noting that our opponent has. But setting our opponent back on mana, getting the counterspell out of their hand that's always going to be live when trying to resolve a 4-drop, makes sense to me. I'm no expert with this deck though, so maybe that's wrong. But I like what we've done there, even though it doesn't feel great. Just to ponder from our opponent. Don't have another Thundering Falls. So Ancient Tomb off the top would be good. We can play sneak attack around a Daze. And then if it's in, we get to chuck in our big spaghetti monster. It doesn't get to take many of our opponent's permanents, but it'll shut off reanimate lines. It'll do a fair amount, as long as they don't animate dead this Atraxa. Thought Seize. That's pretty good. I'm going to take the sneak attack here. We do get into risky territory if our opponent has a Archon of Cruelty in their hand and we cast Show and Tell, we lose the game. Not ideal. So we did have some mana coming, but I think I'm going to hold this Simian Spirit Guide rather than play it, because we can use this to play around the Daze if we're going to cast a Show and Tell. And Brainstorm, sure. Our opponent's deck does very similar things to ours, but it's a lot leaner with how it does it, and also doesn't give us the ability to put something in, because our Show and Tells can enable our opponent's plan, which is pretty scary, whereas their plan doesn't. And their 2 cards of Entomb plus Reanimate is a lot easier than assembling Sneak Attack and an Emrakul. Alright, they get an Atraxa. Let's see what they pull up. If they... I guess we do have the little village that can give us an uncounterable something at some point. Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, Force of Will, Daze. Do I think we're realistically beating this? I'm going to take one more draw step, I think. So, Brazen Borrower, Ponder, Force of Will, Kaito, just a whole bunch of stuff. So we can take 2 hits and then we die. Our mountain. The problem is we know that our spell isn't going to resolve. Because we know there's sat on Force of Will blue card. So we take 1 more draw and then we can pack it up, I think. Orcish Bowmasters, yep, that cuts down our angles because we can no longer look for anything with a cantrip. Stock up still works, but we won't have a lot of mana afterwards. Maybe they count us better anyway. Right, we're going to take a big hit here. I don't think we have anything that works here. I think we just scoop it up, actually. Don't need to draw another card. Because the Bowmasters changes the clock slightly there. Alright, Faerie Macabres, I would like you. Grafdigger's Cage, I would like you. Pyroblast, you are intriguing and potentially good. The Bloodboons are playable here. I don't like the Dazes that much. Seems like it's quite easy for our opponent to play around them. I think we do need Force of Wills just to make sure that our combo works. This is where I get a little bit stuck playing this deck. Like, how are we supposed to board in this many cards? Maybe the answer is that we can't. And then we're not supposed to board in this many things. But I think we need some graveyard hate here. And the Pyroblast to force through our things seem good. Maybe we're not supposed to run Forces and just rely on Pyroblast and Flusterstorms. That doesn't seem like a good strategy though. I don't really want to get rid of stock-ups. They seem really good in the matchup. Do you want to get rid of some Brainstorms or something weird like that so that we can avoid getting blown out by Bowmasters with a cantrip? It's weird. It's a weird option. So at present we've got like these things in. So I still want these 3. So maybe we'll trim on some other cantrips. Alright, I absolutely hate how I sideboarded here. I don't know how we're supposed to fit this many cards. Maybe the answer is we're not, we just need to prioritize, but why do we have 5 graveyard hate pieces? Maybe this deck isn't built, the list I found online probably wasn't built with Blue-Black Reanimator in mind, because it's like a new list, and Blue-Black Reanimator is only like 3% of the meta right now, instead of being everywhere like it was before. Our stuff's going to be uncounterable, potentially. We could get wastelanded off of it though. 2 Emrakuls is too many. 2 Emrakuls and an Atraxa. I think we have to mulligan this. Okay, I can work with this one. If you ask me what sort of hand I want to keep, it would probably look a lot like this. I think we have to get rid of the Pyroblast here. It's not amazing against our opponent's deck, but it like only hits their counter spells. So we go and get a basic island here, and I'll deploy the Grafdigger's Cage before our opponent has anything like a Daze that they can leverage. And then we'll work on doing our cantrips next turn. Okay, so we don't have to worry about the graveyard. We do have to worry about us casting Show and Tell and just immediately losing the game. To like our opponent getting an Arcana Cruelty or whatever. It's kind of why I prefer the mono blue Omnitail builds. Okay, looking at our hand, I'm trying to think if we want to ponder or brainstorm. I think I want to ponder. Because we're not really in the market for putting stuff back. I do like the stock up quite a lot. So we've got a sneak attack on top. If we get Thoughtseize, we can try that. Otherwise, we can go and get Surveil Land. Do we need a Surveil Land or do we need a basic here? I'm going to take this sneak attack. Maybe that's cowardly, but I'm just a little bit concerned that if we just Show and Tell in, we can just get ruined. Where we can Show and Tell in the sneak attack and then activate it and Emrakul away anything so we don't die to the trigger. That just seems like the tighter play there. This is worth carrying if our opponent can. Okay, not very exciting. I'll take a Brainstorm and probably just another Volcanic Island is fine. Right, we can't find any monsters yet. So our opponent's probably going to get their second Undersea Sewers here. Nope, they don't have a second one. Or they're playing something end step like a Bowmasters. Alright, I'm going to get a Volcanic Island here and Brainstorm in response to the Bowmasters. Not in love with this one. Okay. We're just going to be slamming down sneak attacks until our opponent lets us have one. I decided to keep the Brainstorm because it is a blue card to go with our Force of Will plan. At least their clock isn't quick yet. So we've got time to try and get out of this one. We do need to shuffle here, so we are going to be losing our City of Traitors. Barraglyph is good, but what we do does go over the top if we can do it. Play land, cast our sneak attacks. This will force action from our opponent. A force of negation, sure. But we have the other sneak attack to follow up with. We don't know if our opponent has a Daze. They pitched a Force of Will. I think if they had a Daze, they'd be more inclined to pitch the Daze there. So I'm going to play like our opponent doesn't have a Daze. I think that makes sense. And Emrakul will wipe their board if we can attack them with it. Now you got a Barragoyf back with their Barragoyf. Okay. The old Barragoyfception over there. So our graveyard hate stuff looks pretty bad now because our opponent doesn't have the graveyard plan in. But we have to respect it because it's so good. And we are back at the problem from before, really. Undercity Sewers. And milled over a Polluted Delta. Alright, let's see if we can get a Surveil land in. Alright, so we have an Atraxa. That's not a bad place to be. So, the plan here is cast this Show and Tell around a Daze. We know they've got a Barragoyf in hand, they can get out of this. But we can put in the sneak attack. Okay. Is it better to attack our opponent for 7 or have a blocker with this Atraxa? If we guarantee the 7 lifelink, I think that's probably the best. Because this can also hit us Lotus Petal and Emrakul, and that will kill our opponent. Are they going to consign to memory this trigger? Because that would be very good. They've shown us they've got consigned to memories in. How many are they realistically going to have in their deck? Probably 2. People have cut from 3 to 2 since Magus Spawn went away. Here we go. Shoulder's Edict. That's pretty good. Okay, so what does this hand do? Yeah, we're going to die to casting the Show and Tell now because we don't have anything we can do here. We can put in a we can go Lotus Petal, Faerie Macabre here, right? That blocks here. We take 4, 5, 6. So that's one of the things we have to do, which is obviously horrible. I guess a City of Traitors is probably the best land here. And then stock up. Thanks, I hate it. If they have a Kaito, we lose. This blue animated deck is still really good. I think people are still working out exactly what it's supposed to look like, but if I lose this one, I think I'm 0-4 against it since it was banned, which is a much lower win rate than what I had before. Right, Faerie Macabre, it's your time to shine here. So we're going to go to 2. We're going to have a stock up turn, and hopefully that gets us where we need to go. Our opponent's got a lot of life, so we're not going to be able to outright kill them very easily. In fact, it's impossible because we have legendary creatures. The most we can ever hit anyone for is 22. I guess we have a Spirit Guide, so 24 is the most we can ever hit anyone off of a sneak attack. Wasteland, actively pretty good. Constricting our mana is going to help them out here. But they only have 2 cards in hand, and we do have a Pyroblast. So we need to stock up to be good. A Ratchet Bomb. Okay, we don't care about that. So no Force of Will available, just a Daze. Alright, stock up. You got to be good. So they're just playing Ratchet Bomb because it's more permanent. If they have a Daze, I think it's good to use it here. We have an Emrakul. We obviously want the Emrakul. We want to strip our opponent's permanents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 permanents. So they get to keep 3 of them. So that's Barragoyf, Barragoyf, and a guy. We block 1 Barragoyf, we die. So we on... If we chump block with an Emrakul and the Simian Spirit Guide, we still die. This seems bad. Maybe they sacrifice one of their Orcish Bowmaster. I don't think they will. Probably what we need to happen here. Okay. Let's put in the big monster. Let's swing for the fences. See what gets taken away. This might allow us to ponder into an Atraxa. Right, so we can get rid of all the lands. And they're going to get rid of that guy. Okay. So losing a bunch of stuff here. So now we still have to ponder, right? And this is going to give them another guy to attack with. So we'll be on 8 life if the Atraxa connects. If we've taken 5, 6, 7. So we are still live. But we have to draw an Atraxa off of this ponder. We did draw an Atraxa off of the ponder. Okay. Okay. So put in the Atraxa blocks a Barragoyf. We gain 7, but we take 7. So we finish on an even amount of life. And hopefully the Atraxa finds us what we need to win the game. It's a tight one. So the Emrakul shuffling and also shrinks the Barragoyf, so we're actually going to end up with slightly more life than I was expecting. We are working very hard here. There's an Emrakul and an Atraxa. Oh, make it go bigger, please. Emrakul. We can't take the Atraxa, obviously. But the Emrakul will swipe all of our opponent's permanents. We're going to be gaining the life, so the Force of Will is relevant here. I'll take a land of some description and Lotus Petal. So we trade with this. We end up on 2 life here. We have Force of Will and Pyroblast. I think we can win this one. Well, that doesn't hurt, does it? Let's go for an Atraxa first. See if we can find another Emrakul for next turn, I guess. There is another Emrakul. I'll take blue card, please. Wow, I can't believe we're actually going to win this game. We want to put in some Lotus Petals first, just so we have enough stuff in case we need to fire off a Pyroblast or whatever. Alright, our opponent's scooping that one and we're tied going into the final game here. Oh, so our opponent's boarded out a bunch of their stuff. Do we respect the graveyard plan? I think we have to, and just assume that what we does goes over their fair plan. We could play the Magus of the Moon. That is the one thing I'm considering here. But again, how are we supposed to take out cards from our deck? It's very much a lean machine here. Maybe I don't want the Flusters. I'd rather just have a couple more Ponders. Alright, let's try this. Yeah, so the problem with the Blue-Black Reanimator deck, in my view, has always been that it's a tempo deck and this combo deck. And you have to respect both parts. And your opponent can capitalize on you respecting both parts. That's this horrible little dance you play. There is a distinct problem with this opening hand. We have no blue mana. I will mulligan it, I think. We're not going to lose the graveyard stuff and we have blue mana. That seems okay. I think we put away... Do we need Faerie Macabre and Grafdigger's Cage? Probably not. So this can be our blue card for Force of Will. Would I like the Grafdigger's Cage or the Faerie Macabre more? The Faerie Macabre can like blow our opponent out. If they go for it, then we can just say no. And it allows us to potentially brainstorm on one. Alright, I'm going to go for the higher upside of the Faerie Macabre. Because this can actually get cards out of our opponent's hand. If they go for an Entomb, we can just say no to the creature. If we get Thoughtseize here, then it becomes awkward. Ponder, okay. Because Grafdigger's Cage can be countered, Faerie Macabre can be Thoughtseize, Grafdigger's Cage lets them not play into it, so they can just play around it and sculpt their plan otherwise. Faerie Macabre is a gotcha. I do believe Faerie Macabre is the better piece of graveyard hate against Blue-Black Reanimator in general. So we're incentivized to cast this Brainstorm this turn, because our opponent is a deck that plays Orcish Bowmasters. Get our basics, we can't be wastelanded off. And we'll cast this Brainstorm before Orcish Bowmasters can come down. My opponent thinking about dazing this. Okay, so we found a land. We found some stuff to be getting on with. So I don't want to get rid of all of these cards. I kind of want all of them. Maybe we don't need the Emrakul. And then we know we've got a land on top. Do we hide anything here? We probably hide the sneak attack from Thoughtseizers. Or do we hide the... We can't hide the Faerie Macabre because they can just go into and reanimate on that turn. So I think we hide the sneak attack. So we can shuffle away the Emrakul because an Atraxa with a sneak attack is usually good enough. And it'll find you either the cantrips to find you your Emrakul or just find the Emrakul itself. And if our opponent plays anything this turn, then we can get off a Brainstorm plus fetch land. Right, so we're just going to play around the Bowmasters and not play into it. So they're kind of wanting to do something at the end step here. A Brainstorm. Okay. This does give us a window to brainstorm ourselves. 2 Emrakuls. No, thank you. I'll take the land though. We have the intention of turning this into a Thundering Falls when the time comes. Getting close to a position and our opponent hasn't done anything yet. So we're not under any pressure just yet. We could be seeing something like a Barragoyf come down this turn. Do we fight over Barragoyf? I'm not even sure we do. And Entomb. Okay, so we have the Faerie Macabre, so we just let this go through. And this is what I mean about having the higher upside of the Faerie Macabre as opposed to the Grafdigger's Cage. Our opponent has sculpted this plan with a Ponder and a Brainstorm. So we get rid of this, and we get rid of their only sorcery, I think, as well. And we still have a Force of Will if we need it. And that's an Atraxa that we don't have to worry about coming in off of a Show and Tell if we end up doing Show and Tell stuff. So I don't think we need these Emrakuls. We just need some more land. So let's get Thundering Falls. Another Atraxa. Do I think our opponent's going to surgically extract these? Probably not. We should put it into our graveyard. This does give our opponent something to reanimate though. That is a real issue for us, thinking about it. But I don't think we want to draw this. This reanimate deck. Pretty good. Why do we have to draw all our Atraxas? Alright, no play from our opponent. Would love to draw a Soul Land so that we can play one of these without having to worry about what our opponent's doing. Do I want to Show and Tell in? I don't think this Show and Tell is going to resolve. I'm going to cast it as bait. Casting a Daze. Sure. Okay, I was hoping to get like a Force or something out of it. But Daze is going to work into our 4-drop spells a lot of the time anyway. But it's just a 3-mana Duress. I don't really want to cast Show and Tells. I'm just very scared of what our opponent can have vis-a-vis the Archon of Cruelty. Alright, so we're flipping the Tamiyo straight up. That is pretty handy. So they can rebuy and entomb next turn. That's pretty good. But I think we're better off protecting our kill rather than trying to stop them doing their game plan. Now, a more experienced Sneak and Show player might tell you otherwise, but from where I'm sat, I think we just want to do the really powerful thing that our deck does and make sure it happens. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. Next time they can get back a Brainstorm, potentially a Daze, but I don't think the Daze is the one they want. Okay, Sneak Attack. Let's get you in. You have another Daze. A Force of Will. So, what do they get back here? I think we just fight over this. We know our opponent's got nothing. They don't have a Thoughtseize to take out our Atraxa here. So we're in with this. We just need to untap. That's all we need to do. So our opponent is going to get back a Brainstorm. And Brainstorm. Now there is a possibility our opponent gets back a Entomb. That would be the worst case scenario. Because that means that they're going to be drawing a... Actually no, they get back the Reanimate here, don't they? And then they bring back our Atraxa. That's the correct play for our opponent. Yeah, that is a problem. Let's hope our opponent doesn't see that line. Obviously, we still get to do our Atraxa. Maybe that finds Emrakul. We don't care about what they're doing. But they might have a Hydroblast which can take out the Sneak Attack. Alright. Don't get my Atraxa back. Maybe we are supposed to fight over the Tamiyo just because of that line. But they had the Force anyway. So it was much better to use the Force to defend than it was to go after our opponent's stuff. A Brainstorm. Okay, no activation on the Tamiyo yet. Maybe they won't see the line. Now, if they don't have anything that can deal with the Sneak Attack, then we're not actually in that much trouble. I believe in the power of Atraxa to find Emrakul and friends. A Thoughtseize here would also be very, very strong. So I guess they could reanimate our Atraxa, get into a deck, find a Thoughtseize off the top 10, take our Atraxa, and then we lose. But then we can top deck an Emrakul and win the game. So at least we have something going for us. I believe our opponent is favoured right now. If they see the Tamiyo line. Oh no, they've gone for the Brainstorm. That is not the correct one, their opponent. I think they've just gifted us a chance to win this game now. If they reanimate our Atraxa, what are we supposed to do? Like maybe they're worried that we've got like Faerie Macabre. Maybe that line is too obvious for them and they're like, oh, why would they let us have our Tamiyo if they had that Force of Will? Unless they had a way to answer it, because we showed them a Force of Will to turn afterwards. Maybe they're like, I don't know, we'll see. If they find a Thoughtseize here, they find a Reanimate, and they're going to reanimate the Atraxa now. That'd be quite funny when they could have just got one anyway. Yep, so that's weird that they've done it that way around. So we need them to not reveal a Thoughtseize. No Thoughtseize. Okay. Consigned to memory, though. That is a real pain. Yeah, I think our opponent wins this game now. Oh, they didn't take... Okay, so they're going to bounce our thing instead. Their plan is to bounce and then counter our Sneak Attack. Okay. So they got Brazen Borrower, so it's just going to be the Force of Will left in their hand here. Like, obviously this is a very good turn for our opponent. A Scalding Tarn. So we play this out. We force our opponent's hand on the Force of Will here. If they don't happen to have a blue card, alright. But we can just do this again next turn. If we find another red source, we might just be able to go. The Atraxa's pretty good at finding a red source, I would imagine. A lot happened in the last turn. But we take 7 here. They go up to 14. They've got 1 card in hand. We don't know what it is. They've got Brazen Borrower they're probably going to chuck in. They can up the Tamiyo, and then next turn they can rebuy if they want to. Alright, we're going to take out a blue source from our deck because we're going to use this to pay for our sneak attack. Oops, all sneak attacks. Right, let's activate the sneak attack. Don't have consigned memory, please. Okay, I want this Emrakul. I'll take a Lotus Petal. I'll take a Volcanic Island. I'll take a Ponder and a Show. And we don't take the Show, do we? Play this. Activate this. We get attacks. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 7 permanents. So if they want to survive, they have to lose all of these and then chump block with the Atraxa. I guess they play the Brazen Borrower, so they get 1 more permanent to remain. But this has Death Touch, so it will kill whatever it hits. This is enormous, so it will kill whatever it hits. So they're probably trading off an Atraxa here. The question is, are they keeping... Are they keeping the Tamiyo? They can't keep a Tamiyo and a land, because then they could just try and do a... I guess the Reanimate's not going to work, because they're going to be on low life. How many things are you blocking? They have to block the Emrakul. Are they going to chump this Atraxa? So our opponent's losing all their permanents. We're going back up to loads of life. And do I need to play this Lotus Petal out? I don't think so. Our opponent's nearly run out of time as well. This has been a surprisingly long round. So we're going to shuffle all these things in, which is the reason I didn't want to cast a Ponder, because the reason we would cast a Ponder there is in case it gets Thoughtseized, but we don't get to float something on top because everything gets shuffled in anyway. Alright, we win the game. I suspect we'll probably find a monster or a stock up very easily with this Ponder. That was a real slog, and I think our opponent made a slight mistake. If they'd have just immediately got back the Reanimate and got our guy back, they would have had more mana, so maybe they could have worked something else out. That might have worked a little bit better for them. But yeah, that was a pretty good game, to be fair. And my first victory against Blueback Reanimator since the bannings. Wow. Alright, let's go to round 3. Alright, this hand plays. It does have one slight flaw in that we can be wastelanded off of blue, but yeah, we came to game. We can't throw away this sneak attack Atraxa hand. Thundering Falls, find us another land, please. Pop you back on top. Excellent. So now we have the combo ready to rock and roll. So next time we can stock up, try and gain some interaction to make sure that we don't die to what our opponent's doing, or that we can push through what we're doing. Seat of the Synod, unlikely that our opponent is going to be trying to wasteland us, which is good news. So it could be Painter is the most common deck that looks like this at the moment. Alright, I would like a Force of Will. And do I want a cheeky little Emrakul? Take a cheeky little Emrakul. Alright, so next turn we've got Sneak Attack plus Activate with Force of Will backup. A Grim Monolith. Alright, is that all you're playing out? 6 cards in hand. Another Atraxa, I don't mind if I do. Alright, let's cast a Sneak Attack here. How do you feel about this one, opponent? Oh, we're just in, aren't we? I'm going to put an Emrakul in and just make sure our opponent has nothing. But they're not even going to see it. They just had enough. Artifact deck, you say. Meltdown plus Brotherhood's End plus Abrade. Probably Pyroblast are looking good here. I'm not entirely sure what particular build our opponent's on. We've seen a Grim Monolith, so I am expecting it to be the Painter deck. So that would mean Disruptor Flute for Painter makes sense. The Pyroblast, not so much. If they're on the Grim Monolith build, it doesn't have that many blue permanents or that many blue things we want to hit. How do I feel about Fury here? The Magus is also quite interesting because the Magus can shut down their Urza Sagas and a lot of their lands, but they can just win by tapping them for colorless. So maybe not on the Magus. Fury can sweep out some of their stuff, but I think we're more looking at just these things. I don't particularly like Daze against our opponent's deck with a bunch of mana in. We're obviously keeping our things that let us win the game. I think we keep our fast mana as well. Our mana base is built with the fast mana in mind, so none of this goes. So it has to be something from these 3 piles to make room for this. Do I need these Force of Wills? We could trim back on Force of Wills and just have a bunch of like this Abrade Meltdown-y type stuff. What does that look like? We would get to keep 1 force. We could maybe trim on like a ponder and get a second force in, just so we've got a couple that we can dig to with our Atraxa. Let's try that. We can reappraise the situation in game 3, if there is one. Okay. We got a lot of cantrips. I will not turn down a bunch of cantrips. It'd be nice to use our Mistrise, Mistvale, whatever the new little village thing that makes our spells uncounterable is. An Ottawa being played as a land. That's not really what our opponent wants to do, to be honest. They want to keep this as a spell. Alright, Ponder. Show me the future. I like the Abrade, but I don't like anything else here. I don't think we can keep this. Thundering Falls. Not great. We could have played out the Lotus Petal so we could emergency Brainstorm there. I don't really want to have to emergency Brainstorm. A Grim Monolith. Alright, Brainstorm. Fix our hand. Oh, thank you. You fixed our hand. So we can try out a show and tell right now. So put Emrakul on top and then a land. I want to use a Lotus Petal in case our opponent's got some weird Karn stuff we need to be worried about. Can I show and tell in an Emrakul, please? Force of Negation. Alright, so the reason we're going now is that when this saga pops, we're going to lose the game. So we draw the Thundering Falls, then we shuffle in our cantrips into our deck with the Emrakul. So Manifold Key, lots of mana, we're going to see the One Ring and all sorts. Like our hand and the cards we brainstormed gave us one option, that was to send it, while our opponent didn't have any mana up before they could do things like Metallic Rebuke or whatever. It didn't work out for us, and we're probably going to lose this game, but I would still make the same play. Alright, I got a little friend. That guy's going to hurt quite a lot soon. So we'll Thundering Falls. We'll put this Emrakul into the graveyard. I don't believe playing out the Simian Spirit Guide was a better play there. But maybe next turn we have to play it out just to block. We have Sneak Attack and Activate available, but I suspect a Pithing Needle is in our future here. Unless they can win the game right now. I'm expecting to see a Grindstone or something. Unless they're just going to go for Lava Spell Boots. Yeah, okay, they're just going to go for Beatdown. Alright, Go Gadget Meltdown. That's what we need here. This is a significant portion of our life total here. Go Gadget Meltdown. Not Meltdown. Our opponent is on 15. Sorry, our opponent is not on 15. I wish our opponent was on 15. So I think we do this in a way where we don't take any damage from our Ancient Tomb. If your last card's a Forcible Blue card, then we didn't stand a chance anyway. Okay, it looks like it's Metallic Rebuke, I think. Okay, Hydroblast, same difference. Alright, that worked pretty well. How do I feel about our sideboarding here? I like the fact that we have a bunch of stuff that blows up their artifacts. How do I feel about Flusterstorm versus Force? I think I prefer the Force to the Fluster. That looks a little bit better to me. Do I want things like Pyroblast to fight back? I don't think so. I think our plan is just melt down all their stuff. Or Brotherhood's End. It's basically the same as Meltdown. Yep. I like pondering. Let's ponder. We got a lot of cantrips to find the things we need here. Mistrise Village is a land that we can use. Stock up, obviously very good. I think we'll take the village and the stock up. And then next turn we'll cast the stock up and just dig deeper. And then if we want the ponder, we know it's in our 5 cards. So the floor of our stock up isn't too bad. Grim Monolith. Is there anything to go with this? Or is it just Grim Monolith pass? Okay, that's not so bad. We have Brotherhood's End, which is obviously one of the things that we're interested in here. So let's stock right up. Okay, I would like a Meltdown. That seems like a good place to be. And then I think it's the Atraxa. Alright, we have both of our Destroy All the Artifact spells. And we can try and make them uncounterable using Mistrise Village in a couple of turns. Snow-covered island. Am I stocking up or am I brainstorming? We do have some excess lands floating around. I think it's a brainstorm turn. We can brainstorm and then stock up as well. A whole breacher. Sure. I didn't see that coming, if I'm being honest with you. Put 2 of these cards on top of my library. I hate Whole Breacher. This is far worse than Orcish Bowmasters, because at least with Orcish Bowmasters you get the choice. This is just, no, nothing good happens. What are we putting away here? It's going to be a land. Is it going to be this Atraxa? I guess it's the Atraxa. Okay, I think we're going to stock up. I can hard cast a Force if they want to. Next turn we can do a big meltdown if we want to. Alright, we're getting a Force of Will. Like if our opponent's just got a 3-2, we can eventually beat through this. Use as a Saga Construct is going to hit pretty hard. So I could Mistrise Village and then Meltdown these things. So we're at least not getting hit for loads of damage. I can't stop the Brotherhood's End though, because you need blue to activate this, so we can't make this unstoppable. I definitely want to shuffle that island off the top of my library. What are we doing here? We could fire off just like a little Brotherhood's End to try and kill this off. Maybe our opponent counterspells it. Alright, so let's fetch, and I think we're getting a Volcanic here. Alright, Brotherhood's End. Let's see if we can kill this Hull Breacher. Blue Blast, sure. So we don't get to cast Meltdown at the time we want to. So our opponent can just make the constructs and beat us down with them. So we need to draw like Sneak Attack here. And then we can put Sneak Attack in an Emrakul. That's no good. So if we don't Meltdown everything, we probably die. So we can Meltdown and take these 3 out. We can pay 2 life to kill this Grim Monolith, which takes 2 damage off of our opponent. So it's kind of a wash either way. So we may as well do this. That means we might not die this turn. I guess they make a guy. So it's a 1-1, then it's a 2-2, then it's a 3-3. That's 2 3-3s. So if they still have the Lava Spur Boots in their deck, we die. Oh, Hull Breacher. Why wish he did not exist as a Magic card? Like, it's not, you know, 3 mana. It's a lot of mana in Legacy. You know, it's not super good. It's just a horrible designed card. It's just like, yeah, there's no play to it. It just does a thing, and then you go, okay. So we're just dead to their hasty guys. All right. I feel that we should be okay into that matchup. Maybe we are supposed to broaden the Magus of the Moons, but more red spells into our opponent's Pyroblast deck doesn't feel great. Okay, off to round 4 we go. For the best Eternal experience this summer, check out Eternal Mania in Hasselt, Belgium from August 8th to 10th. Aside from hosting the European Legacy Masters, they have a whole host of other tournaments from team trios to old school and pre-modern. I will be there playing Legacy and hanging out as a special guest. This will also be the first event that I'll be giving out my own special Marit Lage tokens, so why not come down to enjoy an awesome weekend run by one of the best TOs in Europe. Okay, we can put in an Emrakul on turn 2. That's kind of what we came here to do. We'll lead off on a snow-covered mountain. That way we can't be wastelanded. I think it is better just to show and tell, stick in an Emrakul. So there is an argument to put in the Sneak Attack. But there's not that much Archon of Cruelty running around. Dark Ritual. Alright, here we go. How bad is it? Another Dark Ritual. We storm in. We just like stomp in. Okay, we don't care about that. Phew. So we're not getting... Okay, Orcish Bonemaster, we don't care about that. Have we avoided the problems? Okay, so our opponent could have a Shoulder's Edict in their deck. This looks like a mono-black sort of stompy deck. So, with that in mind, I think the correct play is actually to show and tell the Sneak Attack in. Or we could just cast the Sneak Attack, couldn't we? Rather than our opponent getting something. But if we show and tell in the Sneak Attack, they put in a permanent, then we get to blow it up. Sure. I'm down to clown with that. We should have tapped differently, so it's not the Lotus Petal, just in case there's something really weird in our opponent's deck. Right, so now we get to take more of our opponent's permanents here. And we're going to be in that classic mode of Sneak Attack decks where you've stripped away all your opponent's permanents, and you've hit them for 15, and then you're both just in the dirt trying to find... Like, we're just trying to find a monster, our opponent's just trying to get back into the game. All of their cards are individually going to be, like, better, because there's just going to be, like, creatures and stuff. Although we can just immediately draw an Emrakul, and that's fine, too. Just when I was getting into my nice little diatribe about putting in a giant monster and needing to find one, we just immediately draw one. Okay. Goodbye, opponent. Alright, that felt pretty nice. Now what? A mono-black stuff deck. Brotherhood's End might be playable here. Abrade, potentially. Maybe the Fury to stop things like Bowmasters. This is about the maximum amount of things I want to play here. I don't like the Daze on the play, so they can get out of here. Flusterstorms don't look so hot either. That's relatively clean. We can always mess around with it if we need to. If they show us some graveyard lines, sure. But it looks like... So there's this mono black stompy deck that's been doing all right lately. It's been... I think it won a challenge, actually. And it's just, you know, ramping out some powerful stuff. Just playing all the good black cards, right? There's a bunch of good black cards. All right. Our hand has a pretty solid plan here. We'll keep this. We don't need to Brainstorm here, but if our opponent wastelands us, then we can Brainstorm, because if they wasteland us, they're unlikely to be doing Bowmaster at the same time. 3 mana. You've got to be playing something, opponent. Disruptor Flute. I'm going to say no to Disruptor Flute. I don't want to play into Dark Ritual Bowmasters. We don't need to, really. So, do I want to show and tell right now and put in a Sneak Attack or an Emrakul? Or do I want to wait 1 turn and then do it? I think I'm going to wait a turn so that we can immediately crack it. That way, if our opponent has another Disruptor Flute, we don't need to... I guess they have another Disruptor Flute. Things can get a bit weird. Alright, City of Traitors killing off a City of Traitors. A Disruptor Flute. Sure. What are you going to name here? I name show and tell. A Dark Ritual. 5 mana. What is this going to be? Karn the Great Creator. Not a big lover of that guy. Let's cast a Brainstorm here. Okay. I'm going to put the Emrakul on the top and then the Sneak Attack, right? Okay, this Karn might well be able to kill us. Our Lotus Petal not being functional is pretty irritating for us. Are they going to go and get like a Pithing Needle here and name Sneak Attack? I'm glad I boarded in all the Destroy Artifact stuff. Liquid Metal Coating. Yep. Okay, that's pretty good too. So we can't show and tell. We can put in a Sneak Attack. Our opponent can just keep targeting with Liquid Metal Coating, but we can just respond on the following turn, and that's okay. Now, they might have more Disruptor Flute stuff in the sideboard. They might have a whole bunch of stuff. They can take out our Volcanic Island. That is pretty strong here. But if they take out the Volcanic Island and we draw a... Well, we know we're drawing an Emrakul, right? But from their perspective, if they take out Volcanic Island and we draw a red source and just get them, that could be pretty annoying. For them, anyway. Alright, we're in horrible rubbish mode now. We're just sitting around waiting for the right time while they just chew up all our lands. If our opponent has the ability to put an Ensnare Bridge into play, that would be pretty good, because then we can't just wipe all their permanents. But as it stands, we can attack Karn and blow up everything they have. We just need to find a red source in our deck full of red sources. Goodbye, Island. Alright, so no Ensnaring Bridge this turn. Even though they could have done the Ensnaring Bridge if they wanted to. They're a long way off of Lattice Lock, so we've got time. Okay, a Volcanic Island. I think we put in the Emrakul here. Is it the Emrakul or is it the Atraxa? If we put in the Atraxa, we just get more cards and we get to go next time. All we need to do is kill the Karn. Right, I'm going to put in the Atraxa. Okay, a red source. I will take a Misty Rainforest. That is a red source. I will take a Sneak Attack and a Fury, and then a Abrade and a Stock Up. I think I'm going to... I don't want to pitch cards as we might just be able to kill our opponent with the next turn. It's going to attack Karn. Sudden Edict. Okay. Opponent's got 0 cards in hand. What are we worried about from our opponent? They're going to blow this up. Do we care about that? I'm just trying to think if we're going to Fury or not. Okay, I think I'm just going to discard the show and tell here. So this minuses... If this minuses to get an Ensnaring Bridge, then we have the mana to Abrade this and Sneak Attack in an Emrakul. If they plus and blow up our land, then we can just put in the Emrakul and take out the Karn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 permanents. So if we Fury away these 2 Bow Boys, then they will lose all their permanents and we attack with an Emrakul. They know a bunch of the things we have in our hand. Okay, what is the reveal from outside? An Ensnaring Bridge. Yeah, so this is the line I said where we beat this because we have the Abrade. They also know we have the Abrade. So they know this won't work. I guess their plan is to... I'm just trying to think what their plan is here. Because if they Liquid Metal Coating this, we just put in the Emrakul in response. Yeah, I don't think our opponent has a way through this. But we, you know, they might be thinking maybe my opponent makes a mistake here. And they Liquid Metal Coating something in our upkeep. Okay, so this has to put in the Emrakul. And this becomes an artifact. Play this. Crack this for a red source. Tap this for black and red. We destroy target artifact. Get rid of this in Stonebridge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we're just going to pitch cast this guy. This blows up their things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We attack our opponent. They lose all of their permanents. Next turn, we just crack in with an Atraxa. We have an emergency chuck an Atraxa and if something weird happens anyway. So we also could have killed them this turn if we'd just killed the Khan and one of their Bowmasters. Then we could put in the Atraxa off the Lotus Petal. It was a case of we had that game won at that point. All right, 4 rounds down. We are 2-2, 1 more to go. Let's see if we can get a positive here. We've been only just losing the ones we've lost though, so that's kind of good news. All right, let's go to round 5. All right, we've got Ponder and we've got Stock Up. This should get us where we need to go. We can play on bases if we want. Meticulous Archive. Okay, could be Dreadnought, could be a control deck. We just don't know yet. Basic Island and a Ponder. Ancient Tomb is pretty good. I like the Brainstorm probably more than the Lotus Petal as well. So we'll put them back in this order so we can draw the Brainstorm to pitch to the Force of Will if we need to, rather than using our Stock Up, because our Stock Up is the play for next turn. Then we can decide if we're playing out the Lotus Petal to play around Daze or not. A Ponder from our opponent. So I should mention that they milled over a Shuko with the Meticulous Archive, so we do know what our opponent is playing now. This is going to be a breakfast deck. Ooh, no second land though. I'm going to play this out to play around a Daze potentially. I think it's worth keeping laying our Stock Up hit because, you know, it's just going to find us everything we need. Okay, a Show and Tell is pretty good, and I'm a big fan of a Flusterstorm. So we can Show and Tell in an Atraxa. That's pretty reasonable. The danger is that our opponent can use a Show and Tell to put in their combo, but I think, you know, if we're putting an Atraxa, we're probably in an okay spot. We haven't really done much of the put a big monster into play off of Show and Tell sort of thing. Nomads in Core. So this is awkward because we could just set them up with a Cephalid Illusionist combo. But can we beat the Cephalid Illusionist combo with a Flusterstorm? Maybe. Okay. Maybe this is wild to let this resolve. Another Stock Up. I don't think we're doing Stock Up things right. I think we are casting Show and Tell. Can I have my giant terrifying monster lady? I can. They're going to put in a Cephalid Illusionist. A Nadu. Okay. That's worse for us, really. Yep. Not a fan of this. So, like I said, we could have counterspelled this. Maybe we should have. Do we even beat what our opponent's doing here? Feels difficult. There's an Illusionist. So if they go for the combo, we can beat them. But they don't need to. They just have infinite cards now. We could have avoided this by countering the Nomads. Right, I'll take a Sneak Attack. I'll take a Ponder. No, we'll take a Stock Up. I don't know how many turns of this game are left, to be honest with you. I'll take a Scalding Tarn. And that should be my picks. Go clean up. Just get rid of one of our lands, it's fine. Alright, we do the Nomad nonsense again. So the Omnitel build, the Mono Blue build, when you Show and Tell in your Omniscience, you just win the game. And that is something that doesn't always happen when you're playing the Sneak and Show. But the upside of that is that we also have 4 other things that go with our creatures. So we end up with more redundancy, but less determinism with our kills. I think the Flusterstorm is very good here. Is basically the reason why we're playing here. But yeah, this feels pretty horrible. Alright. Cavern. So they can shred their whole library with the Illusionists if they want to. Man, I wish I counterspelled that Nomads earlier. Sure, you can Ponder. So at some point there's going to be a plow that comes for our Atraxa. We need to decide how we're interacting with that. He swords 2 plowshares. I think we let that go. We have a lot of ability to soak up some damages here. Here is the Illusionist. It is uncounterable. If they just shred the whole library, maybe we can beat them with our Flusterstorm. Misty Rainforest comes into play. Imagine how different this game looks if we do things properly. Hit this. Right, we've got Brainstorm popping off here. So if they got anything they don't want in their hand, they can then mill them over with the Illusionist here. I don't think they can beat a Flusterstorm. I can't remember if they've seen the Flusterstorm. I can't remember what we did off of the Atraxa trigger. The Atraxa trigger might have shown them the Flusterstorm. I can't remember now. We took land, sneak attack, stock up. If I don't know about the Fluster, then we can beat it. So they're going for the win here. We can fight pretty well. The downside is our opponent can also Memory's Journey pretty well. But we do have another Flusterstorm, so maybe we can find the other Flusterstorm. Okay, it's a Faerie means that they shouldn't be able to lose this one if they play it right. Alright, they've got 1 card left in their library. They're milling over everything. So they can't use a Teferi to just have the guaranteed win, you know, which is good news. So if they... Okay, they're going for a Dread Return here. I'm going to crack this and get ourselves a Volcanic. I'm going to fight with this Force. Ooh, okay. So maybe they do know about the Flusterstorm. Because the Flusterstorm is a thing that's not necessarily going to work on their... Yeah, it's not necessarily going to work on their turn for us. Because they're not going to have loads and loads of spells. Okay, so step 1 is cast stock up. Not a bad step 1. How much mana do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can't put in... we could 1, 2, 3 put in an Atraxa, activate sneak attack. Okay, let's try that. I would like our opponent to fight. I don't know. I think we've just lost this one. I don't think we can win as soon as they got the Nadu combo assembled. I wrote an article on my Patreon. I wrote it today. I don't know when it went out for you lovely people because I don't know when this video is going out. But anyway, probably last week about how the meta's in a situation where you kind of need to be between 2 things. So you've got like the Nadu stuff at the top end, and you're not going to be able to outdraw what they do in the mid to late game. Okay. If we put in the Atraxa, we can find another Flusterstorm maybe? Maybe that's better? Alright, so they're just putting in a Nadu. That doesn't matter here. It's all about their Memory's Journey. Okay, so we found a Lotus Petal. We found a Flusterstorm. Or do we need the Force of Will? Is the Force of Will better than the Flusterstorm here? Because we already have a Flusterstorm. 2 Flusterstorms they can pay for, right? So they cast their Memory's Journey. That's spell number 1. So everything... And then we Flusterstorm, which makes them pay 2. And then we Flusterstorm again, which makes them pay 3. So that's 5. So that's easy peasy. So we put the Force of Will in our hand, and our opponent has to interact with the Force of Will. Okay. City of Traitors is fine. And I guess take Ponder as a blue card. And do we need another Atraxa here? Probably not. Probably better than a... I guess the Simian Spirit Guide helps us play around Daze. Alright, maybe we found a line here. So what if I would have done if I was our opponent is go down to 1 card in library, and then untap, play a Teferi, and then do the Memory's Journey thing, and then draw with a Teferi to win. I think that's what I would do. Obviously, it's much easier when I can see all the cards in my hand and know what's going on. So they need to Memory's Journey right now. I believe there's only 1 there. I haven't checked. Okay, so then we force this, pitching Ponder. Oh, wow. We just have it. Okay, I was not expecting to win that game. We should have just Force of Will the Nomads. What is useful here? Pyroblast answers Nidus and stuff if that's what we're worried about. Our opponent's mana base is shocking, so I would like these Maces. It's just what the Nadu deck has to do, because it's a 3-color deck that also runs as a Saga. Fury is pretty good here. Brotherhood's End is okay, but is a little bit slow. Whereas the Fury is like free, and we can just put it in off of our sneak attack as well. Some amount of like Disruptor Flute or Graveyard Disruption is also fine. I think the Grafdigger's Cage is better than the Fairy. Is that true? No. Our opponent doesn't impact our hand, so I think the Fairy is actually slightly better here. So what do I want to do here? I don't think the Dazes are good here. Do I like the Force of Wills? I think we need them. Got so many cards to fit in though. Maybe there are times where you like go down on some of these monsters, but I just don't feel confident with when that time might be. So we're just going to keep all these monsters in, and we're going to just trim from this pile of blue cards here. Is Flusterstorm actually where I want to be though? I don't think so. I think Flusterstorm just becomes Pyroblast. That makes sense. And then we're trimming some bunch of these things. Stock up is just really good, isn't it? Just trim some cantrips until I feel happy. Maybe we don't need Disruptor Flute. And then we'll trim like one more. We trim one stock up and just ease off on those things slightly. Alright, we managed to fit a bunch of stuff in. Let's see how it goes. No lands. So we'll mulligan this one. We're not going to get bodied by the combo super early doors. And we have a Force of Will here. This is fine. We can ponder our way through. We put a sneak attack back. We do need to worry about Hydroblast from our opponent, so maybe we're supposed to ease off on the sneak attack? I'm not sure. That is a Nomads. If they shred on turn 2, maybe we win with the Fairy. Right, blue cards go with our Force of Will. Happy to see that one. Ponder. Find me the goods. Show and Tell Magus of the Moon. These are some amount of goods, aren't they? I guess we're putting the Show and Tell on the bottom. Doesn't really matter which order we put these in, I suppose. Because we've got to get through our land drops first anyway. So the plan is stop our opponent's first attempt, play a Magus. Our opponent doesn't get to play any more spells. Eventually we win the game. Alright, our opponent didn't play our land. Are they just a second main phase hipster? Or do they miss a land again? Ooh, they missed a land. I'll take that. This being a basic island is also very nice when we're trying to make to the moon here. Feels like our opponent has the combo with protection. And that's why you would keep a one lander in that situation, especially if they don't have any ponders. That's the only thing that really makes sense to me. Do I want to try and bait them with this Show and Tell? No, I don't think I do. I think we're going to cast a Magus of the Moon here. This could be a Daze. Is this worth fighting over? It puts our opponent into the dirt quite nicely, but it might go wrong for us. I don't think this is where we're fighting. Like, it's a nice thing if we can get it to work. I don't think that's where I want to fight when our opponent is a combo deck. And we're a combo deck as well, so we can force through our combo. This Nomads is very unlikely to kill us. It's not impossible that it kills us, but... Okay, another land. That's good. Am I playing the sneak attack into potential Hydroblast or Daze? We don't need to, is the real thing here. Like, having it in play is nice, but it just gives our opponent time to find a Hydroblast. And if they're not playing spells, what have they got? Probably something. Sorry, if they're not playing lands, what have they got? They got spells. They're probably going to be able to interact with us. So we're just going to keep it cool. We're only taking 1 damage a turn. That's no biggie. And Emrakul. Okay, that is a biggie. We can Show and Tell here, and if our opponent interacts with it, then that's fine, I guess. We exhaust their resources, and then we just Emrakul them into the dirt. I think a Spell Pierce. Sure, I'm not fighting over that one. We're just using these as expensive duresses. So our opponent's going to get themselves a Hedge Maze, try and surveil their way towards killing us. Uncounterable things. Okay. So if they shred... Alright, we're going for a Nadu here. Ugh. Not a big lover of Nadu for us. So what they should do here is not even try and do the Severed Illusionist combo at any point in this game. They should just draw 4 cards every turn. Sorry, draw 8 cards every turn cycle. And just win the game that way. And they can probably just rip their way through the deck enough that they can just put the Tassa's Oracle into play. Okay, so it's getting tough for us. I wonder if we were supposed to force on that Spell Pierce. Alright, so our opponent's going to go to their turn, draw a bunch of cards, and make our life miserable. Yep. Ponder. So at present, we know they've got 1 counter spell. They have a Brainstorm so they can find more. Good old Nadu. Still a thing that exists in the format. Like, I don't think the numbers are behind Nardu not existing at the moment. But it is not a particularly enjoyable play pattern. There's Tundra. Atraxa Grand Unifier. So our sneak attack isn't going to resolve. Are we just dead here? The only way we win is if our opponent makes a grievous error. I'm not going to disrespect my opponent. I'm just going to go to game 3. Okay. So do I want to do anything differently? Daze has become better on the play, but I don't think they're good enough that I want them just yet. Do I want instant speed stuff like Abrade? I don't think so. I think we're just going to go for this. So another thing Magus the Moon does is shut down our opponent's ability to make uncounterable guys. This does get us there. It's not perfect though. So Scalding Tarn gets us a... I guess we use the Misty Rainforest to get us the Thundering Falls, because the Scalding Tarn can get us either basic if for some reason we decide we need another mountain immediately. We have a plan. Just need a little bit of time, maybe a little bit of support. Right, we'll let them surveil, and then we'll surveil. City of Traitors. I don't think we want that one, weirdly. Is that true? It gives us playing around Daze. I think we want blue card is what we actually want. Our opponents saw us thinking about that though, so they're probably going to be speculating about what we're up to with it. Alright, a stock up. That is a Mighty Fine Magic the Gathering card. Can I stock up, please? Alright, we're getting a Force of Will. Alright, our Mind Rot was pretty good. They pitched a Nardu, which suggests to me they probably have more, or they have the Breakfast combo, and that's what they're relying on. We don't have a blue card because we just used it, but we got our Force of Will, our opponent's Force of Will out of their hand. Okay. We're creeping closer to sneak attacking our opponents. So the fact that they've Force of Willed here means they don't have a Daze. But Spell Pierce is now live. Okay, we have 2 sneak attacks, so I am just going to send the first one. Can I have a sneak attack, please? So they could have a Hydroblast here. It's better to Hydroblast on the stack in case we have a Simian Spirit Guide. Alright, it was a Daze. So they must have drawn that for turn because they didn't Daze our thing. They pitched a Force of Will to hit our stock up instead. Okay, so we're looking for blue card. We're looking for more lands. We need to be a little bit cagey on the next sneak attack, I think. Another land. So this is sneak attack around a Daze or hardcast Force of Will. So I think we're just going to hold this up. I would like to be able to not lose to Spell Pierce. So if we find a blue card, we can leverage our Force of Will on our turn. Otherwise, we can leverage it on our opponent's turn. Like, stripping out 2 of our opponent's permanents isn't actually the biggest deal right now. I want to get the max value out of this Annihilator 6. Alright, now this might change the situation. I would like to see our opponent tap out for something here. Oh, a Nomad's in Core. I think we're going to let that happen and then hopefully draw into a blue card. I'm not going to crack this fetch. We didn't draw a blue card. We did draw a Pyroblast though, which is kind of like the same thing. If this sticks, or you obviously just get to blow up all our opponent's permanents. Alright, so we counter target spell if it's blue. What is this 1 mana they've got floating for? Unfortunately, we don't get to activate the sneak attack right now. So we are at the mercy of a Hydroblast from our opponents. We do have some interaction with their combo. And this will come down next turn, and that shouldn't matter. Like, they can get a Pithing Needle off of this and shut down our sneak attack, but we should be able to get this Emrakul in first. Alright, getting the bits in. We're down to 10. Okay, I'll play this land out. I'm just going to go and fetch a basic island straight away. This way, when we activate this, we can hardcast a Force of Will as well. What is happening here? They have exactly 6 permanents if they activate the Urza Saga. So we get the full 6 here. We bash them for a bunch. And then next turn we can sneak attack in the Faerie Macabre to kill them. And this way we're just holding up the Force of Will. I think it makes more sense to not chuck in the Faerie Macabre then. Like, what if our opponent consigned to memories with Kicker on our Emrakul trigger? Then we can just lose the game. I think this is the safest way of doing it. We could stock up, or we could do the style points of just putting in this Faerie Macabre. Yeah, let's get there. A win is a win. Alright, so we finished with a 3-2 records. So positive, and the 2 rounds we lost were pretty close. One of them we did get a bit mana screwed in one of the games that ended up costing us. So we were pretty close in the two rounds we lost. Let's talk about the deck. So clearly this deck is very powerful. It's doing something that fits nicely into the meta right now because the blue-black reanimator deck has fallen by the wayside, which is normally something that used to prey upon these decks because it has disruption, and quite often show and tell is a thing that loses you the game. So it's in a nice spot now. This and the Omnitel build are both putting up pretty good numbers right now. At time of recording, 9 of the online top 8 finishes out of the 56 that we have data for are Sneak and Show decks. Or sorry, Show and Tell decks. So that's pretty good going. Stock up has made a huge difference to this deck. The ability to dig so deep is such a big deal here. And I felt very unsure playing this deck the whole time. Not sure about my sideboarding decisions, whether or not I'm going for it at the right time, how fearful I should be of my opponent putting things in with a Show and Tell. And we still came out doing all right. So I think if you put the time and effort to learn this deck, then it's certainly paying off at the moment. Like, stock up is the big thing that helps this work. There are definitely foils to this deck, though. Our mana base can sometimes come under attack, and that can ruin the game for us. Pyroblast do exist. So I do think that the best tempo deck in Legacy right now is Blue-Red Delver because of all these Show and Tell decks and having Pyroblast. Now, yes, we do get to run Mistrise Village. But again, this is something that can get wastelanded, and the Delver player is always going to be able to wasteland this, and because or they wasteland you so that this won't matter, because you need 2 extra mana, including this land itself. So it's a lot of mana to get the uncountable Show and Tell going. So it's not actually going to make a difference against the aggressive decks that are clocking you. So I think Delver is in a really good spot right now, actually, like Blue-Red Delver. And it's also low to the ground enough that it can go underneath like the Bugstalk control decks that people seem to be playing at the moment, which this deck sort of finds that middle ground. So I recently wrote an article where I mentioned that the format is kind of capped with the Nadu at the top and the Uxal spells at the bottom. So you need to be able to survive the turn 1 for the Uxal spells decks. And then you also need to be able to win the game before the Nadu decks assemble Nadu and just have infinite cards. You can also consider the Bugstalk similar, because that deck just draws a lot of cards when it gets to a certain point in the game, and it becomes very difficult to lose. So you kind of need a deck that fits in that middle gap. And I think Sneak and Show does a very good job of doing that, because you've got your combo elements, so you can go quickly underneath a lot of other decks, but you've got your control elements like your Daze, your Force of Will, your Flusterstorms to stop some of the combo decks. So it's quite well positioned, I think. I do prefer the Omnitel build, purely because I like the ability to cast my game-winning spell of Show and Tell and being able to win like 99% of the time. Whereas that's not the case when you Show and Tell in like an Atraxa or an Emrakul, where if you put the Omniscience in, it almost certainly is just lights out. Also, that deck has much better mana because it's basically just mono blue, so you can't get like messed up with wastelands and stuff, so it's harder for the Delver to press you on that front, but it all gets condensed into you need to find Show and Tell, so there is a trade-off. I think both builds are perfectly fine to play, and if you're going to a Legacy tournament, you need to be aware of all these Show and Tell decks that are floating around, because they are a real big part of the meta right now. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one today. I thought it was quite fun. We had like a super weird long grindy game as well against the Blue-Black Reanimator player. That was quite fun. That was probably my favourite round, actually. Alright, thank you so much for joining me on this one. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.